USA. And there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down to the burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. Another one. Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA. And there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down to the burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. Another one. fire. Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA. And there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down to the burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. Another one. Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA, and there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down to the burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, 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 another one down. Burn, 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 another one. Burn, 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 another one down to the ground. Another one. Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA, and there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. There's a bushfire burning in the USA, and there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one.
And welcome, folks, to our final show of the year. Can you believe it's almost the end of 2020? What a year it's been, and we have survived thus far. So welcome to the live cook channel, where you get to cook along with some of the best, and in this instance, most charming and handsome chefs in the country. Oh, that's me, sorry. But we'll also be joined by my good friend, Benny Masekwameng, who is also going to be participating. How you doing, Benny?
Hey, Pete. Man, it's great to see you again. Yeah, it's been hectic.
Cool, man. That it has, dude. It's crazy. It's been a tumultuous year. I cannot believe that we're almost weeks away from 2021. Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, man. 2020 has been hectic, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to 2021, even though nobody is saying anything, to say I'm looking forward to this or that, because we're also not sure what's going to happen, but we're all hoping for the best.
Well, all I can say is, Benny, I remember this time last year saying I cannot wait for 2020. So I think we'll reserve judgment till it actually happens. But tonight, folks, we've got two for the price of one. We've got two MasterChef judges and two Ultimate Braai Masters. Winner, chicken dinner, I reckon.
Okay, Pete, thank you for that. But welcome to the last live cook of the year. And for those that are cooking with us, thank you for joining us once again, cooking with us at home. But those that bought tickets and have ingredients at their houses, Pete said, I must give you a message to say, before we even start anything, can you please switch on your oven and heat them up to 200 degrees? Yes. And we'll give you a moment to do that right now. You need to make sure.
And also what I mentioned to everyone also to try and do is to possibly put your chicken stock, your white wine in a pot and get that up to the boil as soon as possible, because we'll need it hot for a little bit later.
But before we get to that, Pete, we've got great competitions lined up for our guests tonight. So here's a big one from one of our sponsors for tonight's show. Yes, folks, we're giving away the Weber Spirit 2 3B and the Weber Connect Hub, valued at over 13,000 rands. I've got one here already, and I'm
nice one, Ben.
to use it. Yeah, Pete, I believe you got one also.
I've also got one, but I've also got one of the Hub Connect. These are fantastic little bits of machinery, Ben. It's like a remote sensor, and you get to put a temperature probe into your meat, and you can actually do like a whole leg of lamb, and you can program it on your phone and tell them what degree you want it cooked to, and it actually sends a message to your phone when the meat's ready. It also gives you instructions about when to turn your steak over. It actually is quite a cool piece of kit.
Wow, I'm looking forward to using mine. But Pete, getting back to the business of today, what are we cooking?
Mm-hmm. So tonight I'm going to be doing a roast chicken breast, served with a sweet corn bacon and chili risotto. I'm going to top that with a coriander and cashew pesto.
Okay, that sounds like a lekker dish. Haven't tried any of those from you, but why this dish in particular?
Well, Benny, you know, chicken is my personal favorite. Sorry. No,
yeah,
actually,
we both have favorites, yeah?
We both have favorites. Well, I wanted to do something festive. And of course, we've only got an hour for the show, so doing a turkey was out of the question. So I thought I'll do a smaller bird, but with something seasonal and something that you could knock up over the Christmas period and be equally festive.
And obviously, we want something that can be cooked in the time that we have, since we don't have the whole night cooking,
most
right?
Most definitely. Yeah, definitely do.
Well, I'm looking forward to tonight, and I want to welcome those that are cooking along with us today. And I know that you have received your box from Daily Dish with full of ingredients, but we also have a lot of prizes to give away, as if the Weber prize is not enough. But you would have found that in your box, there's a special kitchen set to the value of over 800 Rand from At Home, including a Saroa 4-piece kitchen utensil set, an exclusive At Home voucher, and also At Home catalog with a bottle of Robertson's Winery Chenin Blanc. And I've already opened mine. As chefs, we like adding the wine to other things than other than the pot that we're cooking. So yeah, we've got this wine just to cheer you up and this festive season, and also during this cook. I know I have 2 more bottles in the cooler to make sure that I have enough for this cook, because it's gonna be smoking. Now, Pete, to the rest of the ingredients for the cook.
Okay, so before I get cracking, I also wanted to say that I was reading it earlier, but someone seems to have whisked away my copy of the At Home catalog.
Oh, Pete.
For those of you listening in the background, but never mind. It is a fantastic store that will satisfy your every need. It's one of those fantastic catalogs. And I've actually got a couple of bits and pieces from their catalog. I mean, they've got great sort of superior brands like Smeg, Breville, and I'm lucky enough to have a little bit of my favorite here, which is the Curacao. I've got a couple of beautiful bits and pieces that I got from their catalog that I'll be using this evening. But yeah, I think let's have a look at our ingredients. Unless, of course, we have a message from one of our sponsors.
Yeah.
We don't. So good. What happened to my catalog? And everything.
Well, welcome back, folks. So here's a couple of announcements that I need to make before we start. Guys, you know that this is a cook-along, interactive cook-along session with Pete and I, and we encourage you guys to send in whatever questions that you have in conjunction with what we're cooking, but also anything related to food that we are able to answer. If by some miracle we're not able to get to your question, don't worry, we'll try and answer as many questions as we can. But if you would like to join in and also participate in asking questions, please use the hashtag #LiveCookChannel in the comment section below. You have lots of chances to win tonight. So since it's Christmas, we're giving away a whole lot of stuff. So there's competitions galore. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow instructions on our Instagram page, you stand the chance of winning a free cook along for the next episode. Pete, I'm already hungry, and I see that you found your catalog. And while I sip on some lovely grape juice here in front of me, the Chenin from Robertson's Winery, fitting for this dish and also for this occasion. Please, let's get down to
fantastic. I'm just actually reading here. You can choose free click and collect from over 900 stores countrywide when you order online. Okay, so let's have a look at our ingredients that we've got for today. So let's start. We have some onions. We have garlic. We have garlic. I've got some streaky bacon. We have some chili flakes. Then I've got some fabulous corn on the cob, which we're going to shuck a little bit later. Then I have my risotto rice. So I've already got on my stove, I don't know if you can see over here, on my stove already, what I've done, I've put my chicken stock sachets with the water and some white wine, and I've brought that up to the boil, so I've got that on the stove already. Then I've got my beautiful chicken breasts with the skin on. What else have I got? I've got some parmesan, that's going to go into my risotto. And then I've got a little bit of rocket, which is going to be a little garnish salad later. Then I've got cashew nuts. I've got coriander. I've got some fresh lime here and a little bit more of parmesan. That's going to go into my my pesto. Okay, so
sure, Pete. Before you carry on, I just want to say, you know, and I don't know if this is only for what I got as my ingredients in the box. There is red onion, so you got white onion. Is there any difference, you know, that any of the onions contribute?
I think the only real difference is, I mean, obviously the color is there, but the red onions are a little bit sweeter, but it works just as well in the risotto. It gives a nice little color through the risotto. Okay, just something I need to mention is the chicken breasts. So we found that the free-range breasts that we use were a little on the small side. So you might look at it and go, well, I've booked a box for 2, but there are 3 breasts, or you booked a box for 4 and there's 6 breasts. What we've done is we've kind of gone with a little more of a heartier portion, so that you're basically getting a chicken breast and a half each, because one breast on its own wasn't going to do the thing. So that's why there's method to the madness when you look at the numbers of chicken breasts, going, hold on, this outnumbers the amount of people I'm cooking for. There is reason for that. Okay, so I think we're going to start with the risotto, because that's the thing that's going to take the longest. And then while we're doing that, we'll get on to the pesto and the chicken. Now, I chose risotto for a particular reason. It's one of my favorite things to make, but it's also one of those things that chefs, let's say, they talk absolute nonsense about. You know, they make it seem like it's this special dish that you have to have, you know, years of training to do, that you sit here and you stand and stir laboriously and add ladles of stock, and it takes 40 minutes, you can't leave the stove. It's complete and utter nonsense. It's a braised rice dish. The rice knows what to do when you add the liquid, it will be fine. You know, and I'll show you this. It is a beautiful peasant dish to make. It's simple, and it is one of the most flavorful things you can make, limited only by your imagination as to what you want to add as ingredients. So I think that's one of the reasons I was keen to do this, because a lot of people say, oh, risotto, very daunting, can't make risotto. I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually make a risotto. But we need to start with the foundation, the base. So I'm going to start with some onions and some garlic. Now, chopping onion,
Pete, sorry, Pete.
Sure.
Pete, just to interrupt you there, I know, and thank you for mentioning that, because a lot of chefs always, you know, scare people away from risotto, and that's why a lot of people are not even trying it. But I'm glad that you are giving, you know, the basics, and, you know, the fact that it's something that you can do, and people will be able to venture into at least trying to, you know, do it. There are a whole lot of myths behind it, but yeah, man, thanks for bringing that up.
Cool. Okay, so let's get into our foundation. We're going to chop our onion. Now, the secret to chopping an onion is the root. This that we've got here, try and keep the root in for as long as possible. So we'll take a slice off the other side, but we'll keep our root intact. And we cut onion in half through the root. And the whole idea is, here you can see that the root is kept. An onion is like a flower because it has these petals. We want to keep those intact in order to chop them effectively. So what we do is we put the onion flat on the board with the root facing away from ourselves, and we just make small incisions. As close together as you can. Don't worry if it's a little bit ham-fisted. This has taken 35 years to learn how to chop onions like this effectively. Then we turn it 90 degrees to the side, and we just run our knife through that, and we have lovely diced onions. Obviously, if you wanted to go a little bit faster, 'cause. You do that. but now I'm just showing off.
Pete, you're gonna get people cutting themselves. You know, you're a professional. You've been doing this for over 4 decades. So people must just be careful in doing it fast.
Really, 4 decades, huh? Yes, I've been cooking since I was 3. Yes. No, but don't worry. My fingers used to be a lot longer than they are now. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we need
garlic.
I'm going to show you a trick. This is a nifty trick that I learned from a very good friend of mine, Graham Shapiro, very talented chef who now resides in Perth. So where do I start? Okay. The biggest thing about garlic is that people have a tendency to buy that nasty processed garlic that you buy in the tubs. Pre-processed garlic is the spawn of Satan, and you should never use it. One of the reasons is it's basically dried garlic flakes that are reconstituted. They're basically soaked in water to give. So it's got a very pungent smell, but it doesn't have a very intense garlicky flavor. And the biggest thing that people always complain about is they say that chopping garlic is smelly and it's difficult to do. So what I'm going to show you is a neat trick. I've got here just a common grater, right? This is just a normal grater that you would find in your kitchen. Now, what I'm going to use is the side with the finest holes, the one you would normally grate Parmesan with, okay? Now, the secret to this is that we take a whole clove of garlic that's still peeled, or not peeled, that's still got its skin on, and we simply grate the garlic. And what you find is that the skin of the garlic is too coarse to go through the grater. So what ends up happening is you get this lovely fine garlic coming through the grater, and you don't have the laborious process of now peeling the garlic and chopping it. You just grate it. It's much faster. And the beauty of grating is it's quite fine, and what ends up happening is that melts into the food much, much faster than when you chop it. So I'm just going to throw this away and wash my hands.
Pete, while you're washing your hands, while you're washing your hands, this could come in handy in cookbooks and in hotel schools, you know, to say, yes, you can chop it. You need to the manual way, but then there's also an easier and quicker way to do these things.
Without a doubt, Benny, without a doubt. I mean, in fact, if you're doing it in bulk, you can take a whole bowl and grate the entire bowl, and you have the same effect. Okay, so next up, I've got my streaky bacon, and I'm just going to cut this into little strips. Chefy term for little strips of bacon is called lardon. It's always important to get the correct terminology. And one of the reasons we do this as chefs is so that what we're doing sounds far sexier than what most people do. I mean, we have these cuts like lardon, for example. We have julienne, we have brunoise, you know, and brunoise, as you know, Benny, is just little squares, but it's far sexier when someone says, what are you doing? And you say, I'm doing a brunoise of peppers, rather than say, exnay blokies. But all you're doing is exnay.
Pete,
but anyway,
Pete, I'm just thinking maybe we should also, you know, get all of that, you know, and try and you know, bask in that sun. When people tell us that we use complicated terms and stuff, maybe we should also keep that, because if we give everything away, then we're like everybody else. And, you know, what about your 4 decades, you know?
No, this is true.
But
this is true. There needs to be this element of secrecy.
Exactly. So before you carry on, I've got a question from, I hope I pronounce it correctly. It says Golds Westman. Says the recipe says add 500 mils of dry white wine. Why did we get 500 mils of dry white wine vinegar? We are cooking.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me explain that. Let me explain that right from the outset. There was a mistake printing the recipe. I checked that earlier. Mine said white wine vinegar as well. It is, trust me, it is white wine. I drank an entire bag just to make sure that it was actually wine and not vinegar. So trust me, it's just a mistake on the label.
Cool. And Kim says that the garlic trick is the one. So thank you.
Cool. Fantastic. Oh, I just need to say a quick shout out to a couple of people who are watching today. Apparently, it turns out today I found out just for the first time, one of my neighbors is watching. I think it's Sonia in number 26. Good luck. Nice to have you on board cooking. And of course, I also like to shout out to my family. My mother, Zuzu, is cooking with my sister and my nieces and nephews. In fact, my nephew Kyle is the one who's in charge of the cooking tonight. So Kyle, if you mess this up, there's going to be big trouble. Big trouble. Okay, so let's carry on.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you. You've got
if I mess this up,
watching.
I'll never hear the end of it. Okay, so I've got my diced onions, I've got my garlic, and I've got my bacon. How are we doing, folks? Are we kind of there or thereabouts? I'm happy to talk nonsense while you catch up. I'm just going to get my pan warmed up. Okay, pan's on the go. And I'm just going to put my butter into that. About, I don't know, I think 100 grams or thereabout, the recipe says. You can never have too much butter. I always say
exactly
the three most important recipes are butter, butter, and butter. Swiftly, for number 4 is bacon. Ben.
Yo, Pete, your corn.
Good.
Remember, we supposed to let our cook-alongs.
Yes, we're going to get to the corn in a second. You'll see your corn is on the cob. Once I've cleared my board and I've got my bacon and my onions and my garlic in here, we're actually going to shuck the corn and just take the kernels off, and they're going to go into the pot with the rest of the ingredients. You could use frozen corn for this. You could even use tin corn, provided you drain it. But I like to use the fresh corn because you get a far more intense corn flavor into the risotto. But we'll get to that in a second once my board's cleared. Otherwise, it's going to be a shit fight here. Okay, so I'm now just warming up some butter in my pan. You want a fairly large pan because you don't want the rice to be able to cook evenly. So if you cook in too small a pot, it'll take longer for the rice to cook. So we're just going to get this. I'm going to take one of my fab utensils here and just get the butter on the go. You want a fairly high heat to begin with so that we can actually get the butter melted and the bacon cooking and all the other ingredients. When we start adding the stock, we'll turn it down to a much more medium heat so that the rice doesn't cook too quickly. Okay, so my butter's melted nicely. So the first thing I'm going to put in is my diced bacon. And the reason we put the bacon in first is because we also want to render a little bit of the bacon fat down so that that flavor permeates the risotto nicely. So you're really getting a lovely bacon flavor throughout. Now, okay, for those of you watching who may be vegetarian, and any of our sensitive viewers, we're always aware that we have very sensitive viewers. Simply leave the bacon out. If bacon's not your thing, you know what? Give it to your neighbor. They can have it for breakfast. The risotto is almost as good without the bacon, but it's still pretty damn good. Okay.
And Pete, instead of the bacon, would you consider adding something like chorizo?
Yeah, but I mean, if you can eat bacon, you can eat chorizo. So.
Yeah, no, for that extra spice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, look, this is the beauty, I think, of risotto is that it takes on whatever flavors you put in the pot. So you could start this with bacon. You could start it with pancetta. You could certainly use chorizo. You really are limited only by your imagination into what you can start with. But the important thing about the risotto is that you build the flavor with the foundation. This is when you bring in the flavor. You don't add ingredients later. The flavor you want to start from the base here. So if you wanted to do something like olives or sun-dried tomatoes or even mushrooms, for example, you could use what I often do as a mushroom risotto. I'll fry off button mushrooms, but I'll use a handful of the dried mushrooms, and those dried mushroom packets you find in the supermarket. I put that into the stock, reconstitute that in the stock, and then you have this beautiful, rich mushroom risotto. Okay, so our bacon's cooking nicely. We don't need it to get all crispy. We don't want crispy chunks in our risotto. We just want to release the fat so it really starts to cook. Okay.
Well, Peter, I can tell you while you're stirring that pot, that
Yes.
a lot of people here on the comment section, they are loving what is going on so far and the tips that you're giving, and obviously the options of what you could do if you're not a bacon fan, and especially those that didn't get, the box to cook along with us. But
Sure.
everybody seems to be on par. We're still on step one. Now we're only getting to the part where after you add in the bacon and the onion, what is next?
Okay, so now I've got my bacon caramelizing nicely. I'm going to add my onions. Oops. And I'm going to add my garlic. I'll leave a little bit of garlic out for my pesto a little bit later. So my garlic's going to go in. Just let me get a cloth here. I just want to clean my board. We're cleaning as we go.
And where's your wine?
Where's my wine? Oh, my wine is here. Sorry, my wine is here. My wine is here.
Cheers, Pete.
Cheers, dude. It's actually lucky to be cooking with you again, Ben. Ben and I it's been a crazy year. Generally myself and Ben will do, 7 or 8 gigs together during the year. And this is the first year in the last, 6 or 7 years where we haven't done much together. We did do a gig recently and we cooked together earlier in the year when cooking. But it's been thin on the ground, I must admit. Okay, so
man.
We should be getting this lovely, lovely smell coming up from this pot. The garlic is there, it's the butter, the onions, and that lovely bacon. You really should be getting some beautiful flavors coming up from the pot. Okay, so now I'm going to let that cook away. I'm going to now shuck my corn. So basically, all we're doing by shucking the corn is we're taking our corn on the cob and we're just running the knife down the cob to get. They have a tendency to go a little bit all over the place, but it's never too much. So we do that. As I say, you could even cook the corn previously and then take it off. It's easier, but I think raw corn just imparts a far better flavor to the risotto if you do it this way. Just watch the fingers. In fact, what you could also do if you really wanted to go over the top with the corn flavor is once you've cut the kernels off of the base, is you could put these into the chicken stock. You could put these into your risotto stock to give a more pronounced flavor from the corn. Okay,
Pete, I think it's a great idea that everybody received like corn on the cob, so that they can learn these tricks of how you get the kernels off. And the fact that you get more flavor if it's whole and still fresh like that instead of it being frozen, because the quality deteriorates.
Definitely, no question about that. There's definitely a better flavor, and also it's textural. You'll find that when you cook the corn raw like this, even when the risotto is cooked, there's still a little bit of crunch and a pop in your mouth from the corn kernels, which just add a whole other sort of level of flavor in the pot. So now we're just going to get those in like that. I'm just going to turn mine down a little bit because I'd imagine that people are not shucking as fast as I can. So I'm just going to turn that down a bit in case we get too far ahead of ourselves. In the meantime, I will clean up.
Pete, while you're cleaning up, just want to bring it up to your attention that we are 30 minutes in and we're still at the end of step 1.
Okay, so, don't worry. Step 1 is the one that takes the longest. The rest is easy peasy. Now, I just wanted to. Normally at home I have two hoovers. I'm always told that I'm a messy cook because I'm always spilling stuff on the floor. But normally I have 2 Labradors with me who just follow me while I cook and hoover everything up off the floor. So while it looks like I'm making a mess all over the place, my 2 dogs will just lap everything up so the place remains clean. Okay, so our risotto is there. Now comes time for our chili. So we're going to add our chili to this. Now, chili it's a personal preference. Put as much or as little chili in as you want. I mean, this is going to be a nice fiery risotto because I like a bit of heat. But if you're not wild about it, by all means leave it out or only put a little pinch in. It really is up to you. But I quite like using dried chili because it has there's a warmth to it's not an intense heat like fresh chilies are. There's like a warmth zing in your mouth when you use nice chili flakes. They just release slowly into the dish. Okay, so there we go. So that's the base of our risotto, and now we add our all-important, okay, so this camera here, our risotto rice. Now this is very specific rice. It's called arborio rice. It's a specific strain of rice that's short grain. So think of it like pudding rice. You can't use long grain, your kind of tastic brands and stuff like that because it doesn't have that creamy texture. So what this does, you'll see in the end, is it has this texture to the dish, and it's the nature of the starch content in the rice. And we're just going to add the rice into that and give it a good stir, let it fry the ingredients. So each of those kernels of rice get coated in that beautiful flavor that we've got going on in the pot from our corn and our bacon and our onions and garlic. Now, as I said, this is the kind of yes.
While you're doing that, okay. It's your chance to have a sip of something. Just saying that, just following on YouTube and in the comment section, I think people are still stuck at the corn side of things, but they're catching up with you. So you're still doing, a nice pace. But I just wanted to also add in something. You mentioned dry chilies and exactly why you added them in this recipe. But could you use fresh chilies or a chili paste?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, look, the thing is for me with chili and using chili in dishes, use the chili that you're most comfortable with. That if you know the heat that you like, you might have a little chili paste that you're normally using. Or I like to make a fermented chili paste. So I put chilies in salt and I leave them over like 7 or 8 days to ferment. And then blend it up, and you have this beautiful kind of rich flavor. It's got a tinge of sourness to it. And I often put spoons of that in when I'm cooking. So really, the introduction of chili is as mild or as strong as you like it. If you want to throw a couple of extra chilies into this, by all means. I remember we used to have, I worked in a restaurant in London, and we used to have this guy, I still remember his name, I can't forget it, Mr. Moses. Mr. Moses used to come into the restaurant, and it was annoying as all hell because he used to ask for chilies in everything. Everything he ate had to have extra chilies. He went on and on and on. And one day he came in, and it was a business meeting. He had 6 or 7 business people with him, and I still remember the dish. It was a squid ink risotto with fried squid on top. And he insisted that we have extra chili in the risotto. And I thought, okay, that's it. Enough is enough. Today is going to be the last time we do this. We're going to burn this man into the ground. So as I was reconstituting the risotto and getting finished, I took 2 whole dried habaneros and broke them into the risotto, and then just, this thing was so hot. I actually took a spoon of it, and I got the spoon this close to my face, and I stopped to hiccup. It was that hot. I hadn't even eaten it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You asked for this chili in front of everybody, so there is no excuse that you cannot complain. We send this risotto out into the restaurant, and we wait. The plate comes back wiped clean with bread. The dude, he came into the kitchen, he goes, "Chef, this is the first time I've ever been anywhere who's got the chili just how I like it." That was it. We were defeated. We tried to do over on him, and so he became a fantastic regular. He brought people in all the time and used to go on about how we were the only restaurant in South London that could make chili just how he liked it. He could have chili on his bread, chili on his ice cream, whatever he wanted to get chili on, because we tried to do them and we would beat. There was no 2 ways about it.
Nah, but this is what we do. Different strokes for different folks. But as chefs, you need to adapt and give the customer exactly what they want.
Yeah, look, I think there's always that thin line that you walk as a chef between educating people and giving them what they want. And I mean, a firm believer this business, although I must clarify that I'm not a believer that the customer is always right. I think that's absolute nonsense. I think the customer is king, but the king is not always right. And I think sometimes you have to draw the line. But with someone like Chilli and trying to do this dude, he that's it. We were defeated and we had to admit it. Okay, so I'm going to put 100%. My pot back on the flame. And you should probably see a little bit of dark brown color in the bottom of your pot. And that's from the bits and pieces of the bacon and the onion caramelized in the bottom, which is great, which is what we want. So now what I'm going to do is, this is the bit where chefs tell you. So now what chefs tell you normally, when you see videos of people on TV, this is what they do. They say, you add a ladle of stock, and then you stand here and you stir it, and you emulsify the risotto. I'm trying to talk in my David Attenborough voice. And here we stand and we emulsify a risotto. And you stand here for 40 minutes adding ladle and stirring. It's absolute nonsense. Basically, take half of your stock and pour it in. There we go. Now, what's going to happen is the rice is going to cook on its own. It's rice. It knows what to do. You know what I'm saying? And this is the thing. I'm going to stir this occasionally so that my ingredients don't stick to the bottom and nothing catches and burns. But basically, this is just going to bubble away and do its thing. We don't want it to be boiling too furiously, because what happens if you cook it too quickly on too high a heat, what will happen is the liquid will evaporate too quickly. And what happens then is, what happens to the rice is it cooks on the outside very, very quickly. You end up with this porridge kind of consistency and very crunchy bits in it, which we don't want. What we want to end up with is a nice al dente kind of rice kernel that has a little bit of bite, a little like al dente pasta, but we don't want it to be crunchy, and we certainly don't want it to have like a porridgey consistency. Right. So,
Pete.
Dude.
Thank you for that, because like the reason that a lot of people are staying away from risotto is that fact that you have to stand by the stove. And this is the fact that you mentioned at the beginning of the cooking process, to say you don't necessarily have to be watching the pot for the 40 minutes, you know. It's that ladle by ladle thing that takes people away, because, you know, people have a whole lot of things to do, you know. But I'm glad you busted that myth.
I mean, think of any other rice dish that you make, whether you use jasmine rice, basmati rice, long grain rice. Whether you're cooking rice as an accompaniment, or you're making rice pudding, or you're making pilaf, or whatever it is that you're doing, or even paella for that matter. You don't stand there with stir. You measure out your liquid to the amount of rice you're going to cook. You put it on, you turn it on, and you let it get on with itself. That's what rice does. And risotto is no different from that. I think chefs have created this myth, and it's absolute nonsense. And this is one of the reasons why I chose risotto as a component of my dish, so that I know lots of people who love risotto and often order it in restaurants, but never are adventurous enough to make it at home because they think it's beyond their grasp, and it's wrong. Okay, so.
Yeah.
So now step one is done. The rest is easy. We're going to put some oven in the chicken and make a pesto. So there we have it.
Okay.
So I'm going to let people catch up before we get. Okay, the add parmesan and seasoning is only going to go in at the end. And I've been asked this question before. Why do we not add salt and seasoning now? The reason being is we want this to cook down, and you want to taste it at the end. And it can change from pot to pot for two reasons. First of all, the salt content in the chicken stock that you might be using, as well as the bacon itself. You know, one brand of bacon to the next will differ in terms of its salt content, and so you want to make sure that the risotto is cooked first and cooked down before you start seasoning it. Because if you add salt now and it all starts to reduce down, it may be inedible later because of the salt content of the chicken stock sachets and the bacon. We're going to add parmesan at the end to give some nice richness. So we'll wait to the end before we season. Cool. I see. Okay. Elise is my wife is also cooking, and she is sending me photographs that I cannot look at to see if she's doing it right, because I'm trying to concentrate on the camera in front of me. I'm sure you will do a fantastic job, my love, because you're a magnificent cook. So carry on, and I can't answer your photograph. I'm sure you're doing it right. Okay, so glass
Yeah,
of wine.
Pete,
How are we doing, folks? Have we caught up
yeah.
with risotto on the go?
It shows that the most critical judges are watching, so you better not mess this up.
Oh no. No. There we go. This is the beauty of doing it via the internet, is that no one will be able to taste what I make. And it's going to be fantastic. However it turns out, I'm going to tell you how fabulous it is, because you will never actually know if I cocked it up or not, but that's fine. As long as I don't set it on fire, we'll be okay. Oh, that reminds me, before I say that, I've got an oven here that's on a timer, and I did this once before, and I didn't put the timer on, and halfway through the oven went off. I'm just going to disappear off screen to change the time.
Okay, while Pete is off screen, to catch up with everybody else that's cooking, Pete has just completed step 1, which started with the rendering of the fat from the bacon, and then adding in the onions, and then the corn, and then obviously adding in the rice, letting it release it's a bit of starch and absorbing some of that flavor. And then he added the stock, which is mixed with wine, and now everything is all getting mixed up together in the pot, and the rice is releasing the starch, and all the flavor from the bacon, onion, and corn is getting into the rice, and the rice is doing its thing. But it seems like he's back, and now we are ready to go with step 2, which is going onto the chicken.
Which is not chicken. Okay, so I specified in this recipe that it was chicken breasts with the skin on, and there's a specific reason for that. First of all, if you think of, and this is one of my favorite things. It's actually quite interesting. Myself and Frank Dangereau had this same discussion. We were talking about what is singly one of the most perfect things if it's cooked right to eat, and that is a roast chicken. Now, what is the best thing about eating roast chicken? It's the skin. That is the whole point of having roast chicken. So the skin imparts a beautiful amount of flavor, and also when you're cooking with breasts that have a tendency, if you overcook them, to be dry, I'm going to cook them skin the side down, and it also, while it crisps up and adds flavor to the dish, it also acts as a kind of protective barrier to the breast itself. So I'm going to turn on my fantastic skillet that I have here from Le Creuset. So the idea is to try and use a pan that you can put directly into the oven. So obviously nothing with a plastic or a wooden handle. If you don't have the luxury of that kind of frying pan, by all means, take the chicken out, put it into an oven tray or on a baking sheet and put it into the oven. But ideally, if you can keep the pan in the oven, because the residual heat in the pan is what helps to crisp up the skin. So now I've got my chicken breasts here. I'm going to do these in batches because I've only got a small pan that I'll only put 3 in at a time. I want to get salt and pepper on both sides. Now, the cooking time in the recipe says 15 minutes, but these are quite small breasts, quite thin. And I think that maybe 10 minutes is all we're going to need. I think 15 minutes might dry these out. So I've got salt and pepper on both sides. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in the pan. And then I'm actually just going to cook them the entire time on the skin. I'm not going to turn them over because they'll cook in the oven. The heat will envelop them in the oven and cook everything perfectly. But the main heat contact will be on the skin, so that will crisp up really, really nicely. Well, that's at least the plan. Okay. So I'm turning my risotto down because it's boiling a little bit too hectically here. And I'm just giving it a stir just so that nothing is... When you start cooking along these lines to begin with, the heavier elements like the bacon or the corn might drop to the bottom and stick. So you just want to stir to make sure no ingredients are stuck to the bottom that might cause it to burn and taint the flavor. So we give that to go. And as I said, you can see it here. It's not boiling furiously. It's just bubbling away nicely. So it's going to cook at a nice even temperature so that the rice is going to be beautiful and rich. And it's not going to cook too fast and have that porridge-like consistency. What we want is almost like a kind of soupiness. It's kind of, as you put it in the plate, it kind of oozes. That's this consistency. If you go to restaurants and you'll find that, say, sometimes they pack it into a ring mold and it stands up, that's porridge. I mean, that's completely overcooked and rather quite nasty. So my pan is on the go and it's nice and hot-ish. So I put my firstly breasts in.
Pete, while you're doing the chicken, I know that you spoke about flavor and where flavor comes from, mostly from skin, fat, and also meat that's closer to the bone. So with this, would you also for the chicken breast, can you use like a chicken supreme with still that wing bone on, purely for flavor and also presentation wise towards the end, because that's what we also think about as chefs.
Oh, without a doubt, Penny, you're spot on. In fact, you'll probably find if you buy chicken breasts in the supermarket that have got the skin on, they often have that breastbone in as well, and that is actually perfect because the bone imparts flavor, it keeps the moisture in. So yes, without a doubt, the more bone and the more skin, the tastier it's going to be. I mean, look, if you're not a fan of chicken breast, I know people are you're either a white meat or a dark meat kind of person. If you want to do this again and you're not wild about chicken breast, use chicken thighs and legs by all means. Again, one of the reasons I didn't do that is because they take a little longer in the oven, but they would be perfect for this dish. To actually roast a nice chicken thigh with the leg on and serve that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That probably tastier than the breast. You get that, you can really render that fat down and make it soft and really quite tasty. So next time you try this, folks, by all means use a chicken thigh.
And could you use other poultry like duck? Looking at the flavor profile and stuff.
Yeah, look, I think it would all work. I think duck would be beautiful. I think the richness of the duck fat. Then I wouldn't put it in the oven. I'd cook the duck breasts directly in the pan. But you certainly could. You could certainly use duck. You could use guinea fowl if you were adventurous enough. In fact, you could do this as a Christmas kind of dish. If you could get this turkey breast, you do like a whole turkey breast, you roast in the oven. This would work perfectly for a Christmas lunch. Perfect.
Wow. Cool. Well, my wine is like a glass about to end, but I've got 2 more in the cooler. How's yours doing?
I told you, dude, this is what I'm finding, that I'm drinking much slower than I'm actually cooking because of stuff to do. But when I'm presenting, I find that I get through the wine quite quickly. I'm still doing. Although I have to say, this Rocky Shannon is actually very palatable, and it's going to be perfect with the chicken and the corn and the bacon. It's a perfect accompaniment to this. Although I have a horrible feeling by the time my dish is ready, I'm going to have none of it left. That's what it is.
Well, it is the business. But just to bring you up to speed with the time-wise, we are sitting at 50 minutes in.
Perfect. Well, my risotto is probably about 10 or 12, maybe 15 minutes away. My chicken is going to be 10 or 12 minutes. We'll be there or thereabouts. So I'm just going to show you this so you can see. I'm just going to turn this over. You can start to see I'm starting to get a little bit of color. I'm starting to get a little bit of golden brown color on my chicken breast. So I'm going to put these in the oven. I'm not going to turn them over. I'm going to leave them skin side down in the oven. So I'm just going to pop this baby in the oven and we're going to start working on our pesto.
Nice. So, folks, while Pete is doing that and putting stuff in the oven, we are in step 2, and the chicken has been browned on the skin side, to release some of that fat and the flavor into the chicken breast. And now he's going to put it in the oven, and we're going to get ready for step 3, which is the coriander and cashew pesto.
Okay, so what I'm going to quickly do here as well is I'm just going to get another pan. You can do this in a small roasting pan or a baking sheet. I'm just going to put my cashews into the oven. I just want to get a little bit of color on the cashews. It's not essential. If you've got raw cashews like I've got, then it just adds another flavor dimension to this. to roast them in the oven. But if you've already got, say, roasted cashews, they'll do the trick. But this just helps to, as they heat up, they release those volatile oils and they become a little bit more flavoursome. So I'm going to pop these in the oven as well.
Okay, Pete, quickly, Sarah Knight is saying we don't mind if the cooking takes longer than expected, which is also cool. But somebody else also asked about, what about the Parmesan cheese?
Okay, so you've got 2 packets of Parmesan cheese. One is going to be used to finish off the risotto. And as I said before when we spoke earlier, we want to season the risotto just at the end. So at the moment, we've got all our ingredients in, our stock is bubbling away. Now, you might find, depending on the size of your pot, that the liquid is starting to cook off. If it is, just add some more stock. So we'll use 1 packet of Parmesan to finish off the dish. And then the other one is going to go into our pesto with our roasted nuts. So let me get my pesto ingredients. I've got a nice packet of coriander here. And I've got a fresh lime that I'm just going to cut in half. And I've got a packet of risotto. So one of those things that people always
Parmesan.
Yes, I've got Parmesan, I've got coriander, I've got lime juice, I've got a little bit of crushed garlic, and I've got my nuts that are in the oven. I'm going to put those into a little blender kind of NutriBullet vibe, and I'm going to blitz that pesto up. If you don't have a blender, you can chop it by hand by all means. You know, we don't want this to be a smooth sauce. We actually want it to be something with a little bit of texture. So chunky is actually quite nice for this dish. You don't have to overdo the. I'm not going to blitz this to an inch of its life. I'm going to give it a couple of pulses just to bring it all together. It's always interesting, and I'm glad Daily Dish, our fantastic partners who make sure that all these ingredients are produced for us, have left the stalks on the coriander. Now, the stalks have more flavor than the leaves. So particularly when you're using, say, coriander, basil, parsley, all those softer herbs, these edible stalks actually have more flavor. They're far more intense. So whether you're chopping them and throwing into a salad, a salsa, or even blitzing up for a pesto, leave the stalks on. It's only if you're using something like rosemary, for example. It's got a very woody stem, which is actually inedible, that you need to take the leaves off. But for these softer green herbs, the flavor is in the what's its name? Okay, I'm just going to go check on my nuts. I have a terrible habit of burning nuts in the oven.
While you're checking on your nuts, I have my own personal preference when it comes to, and especially when making pesto. You mentioned you can chop it up or you can put it in a blender. But for me, I think that you have more control, especially when you're using a pestle and a mortar, to crush it, and you can control the texture and how smooth or rough you want it to, It might take a bit of time, but I prefer that. Yeah. And that's where you also get how pungent and how the flavors release from the herb.
Without a doubt, Ben, because that's where all those flavors are leaching out in the bowl. And in fact, that's where the name comes from. Everyone says pesto, isn't that basil? No, pesto is actually pestle and mortar. And the name of the sauce comes from that's where the pesto name comes from, is using the pestle and mortar. Yeah. And it is definitely the best way of doing it. I agree. It's better than chopping, and it's better than putting it into a blender. If you have a pestle and mortar, definitely have a go at this. You won't believe it's far, far better flavor.
Pete, just an urgent question that just came through.
Yes.
Some of our comments is, obviously some people might have had their stock on, high heat, and it's boiling and it's reducing furiously. So what can they do? Should they add more stock, or should they take it off the heat as long as it's warm? Or
okay, so the thing with the stock is you can, once it's come up to, sorry, my fault, I should have explained better. Once your stock is on the boil, you can turn it off. It doesn't have to continue cooking. Sorry, that's my mistake. The only reason we heat the stock up, apart from to integrate the wine and the chicken stock, is that when you put stock into risotto, the stock needs to be warm. It doesn't need to be boiling hot, it needs to be warm, because what you're doing is, if you're adding cold stock, every time you put ladle full or pour a bucket full or how much stock you put into, if it's cold and you pour it into a hot dish, you're retarding the cooking process, you're lowering the cooking temperature. So it's vital when you make risotto that your stock is at least warm. Otherwise, you're cooking and you're lowering the temperature, cooking, lowering the temperature. So that's the only reason. So turn your stock off. If it's reduced too far, just top up a bit of water, because the flavor of the chicken stock and the white wine will have reduced and intensified. So just add a couple of cups of water if you think you're running out of stock. I'm going to get my nuts.
Okay, cool. So while Pete is checking the roasting nuts in the oven, we are now ready to start with the coriander pesto, which he's going to put in a blender, and then that's going to bless up quickly, and then we're going to get ready for step 4. But so far, from the comments that I'm seeing, everybody is, just on the same path, and they are cooking along with you, and hopefully they're enjoying their wine. And for those that are cooking for 4, I hope you haven't finished your wine as yet. Maybe take sips of water in between. But my one is also running low. I might have to leave you for a second and get more wine. But so far, so good. Step 3, we're about to do the pesto before we get to checking everything else, especially the chicken in the oven and the thin.
Yeah. So I've taken my nuts out. If you want to, you can actually toast them in the pan, because I find often I burn as many nuts as I cook. This is why I always buy twice as many nuts as I need, because I put them in the oven and I forget about them. I can't see them, and so we take them out of the oven, let them cool down a little bit. Otherwise we don't want the sauce to be too hot. And you just want a faint amount of color. They don't have to be dark, crusty. You just want to heat them up, the light tan color, so that they're just starting to release their natural oils and the flavor. I'm going to go check on my chicken. I'll bring it out so I can show you how it looks.
Okay, while you're checking on the chicken, we've got Kim Lauren, who is saying, I think she's running a bit behind with putting the chicken in the oven. Sure. But if you are late, with doing that, could you be able to finish it off on the stovetop in a pan and still get the same results?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, it depends on the thickness of the breast. And these are quite small. These are only about 100, maybe 120. We thought with 120, 140 grams these breasts. You could actually cook them through in the pan. You wouldn't necessarily. It's just when you're, particularly as we spoke earlier, if it's on the bone and if it's quite a thick breast. If you're looking at the chickens that are usually about like 1.2, 1.3 kilos, so you're probably looking at like a 200, 250 gram breast. That it'll burn in the pan before it's cooked, so that needs to be finished off in the oven generally. The ones we've got this evening could actually be finished just in the pan. So don't sweat it if you haven't got it in the oven.
Okay, Pete, I know that you're still getting the cashew nuts cool down before you start doing the pesto, but the hot question right now is, what about the Parmesan? Okay,
so again, we're going to put Parmesan into our pesto, and there's 2 packets. You should have 2 packets. One is going to go into the risotto as a seasoning, and it's going to give it a nice creamy texture and a lovely saltiness. And then the other one is going to go into the pesto. So don't worry if you still have packets of Parmesan laying around. We haven't put them in anywhere yet. It's not like when you assemble something and go, oh my God, there's ingredients left over that were supposed to go in. Don't worry about that. We haven't used any Parmesan yet. So how are we doing, folks?
Okay, cool.
My chicken's about ready to come out of the oven.
Okay, so Pete,
I'm going to take my chicken out of the oven.
Summary of what's happening. Oh, okay. Yeah, Sarah Knight is the one that was worried about the Parmesan. But Sarah, you got your answer from Pete. So hang 5 on the Parmesan. It's coming.
Cool.
Okay. So while Pete is checking his stuff, we're still about to do the coriander cashew pesto. And he's still cooling the cashew nuts because it just came out of the oven. But everything is looking great. If you are not at that stage, and if your chicken is not in the oven, you can finish it off on the stove top. But your risotto, I'm sure the liquid would have come down, and it's starting now to thicken a bit and looking all nice and silky. But Pete will give us the update.
Yeah. So okay. So my chicken is out. It's nice. It's still got a little bit of bounce to it, and I just look at that, and it's golden brown on that side. Now that is what we want. That's the color that we're after. I've turned it over now so that just let the chicken cool down and let the chicken rest. But we've got this lovely crispy skin on the top here. That's where the flavor lives. And so I've actually turned my risotto off because my risotto is done. Obviously, I started mine before yours. I'm just going to give it a taste.
Yeah. Oh, Pete. Yeah, now I want to taste that. But can you bring it up to the camera so we can see in terms of consistency and what it should look like for those that are cooking with us?
Okay, so we want it. It's quite. Hold this because I drop this now. So we basically want. It's got quite a sloppy sort of consistency. It's not stiff. It's not like a bowl of. It's more soupy in consistency than anything else. So that's the kind of consistency that we're after. Don't think about how you would normally cook jasmine or basmati or long grain rice. Just think it's quite loose because it's got a nice bit of liquid in this. We don't want it to absorb all the liquid. And if you've got liquid left over like I have, that's also cool. It's not the end of the world. And it'll depend on the rice that you have. It depends on the size of your pot. It'll depend on what heat you've had it at. That some of us will have no stock left over, some will have half a left over. Don't sweat it. Okay.
Okay, Pete, so while you're going to start doing the pesto, I'll ask more about some of the other myths and things that people have been misled about risotto. Because there's also a question of, some people think that there's always cream that goes into the risotto. And I know you're going to explain all of that since you're doing that. Yeah, exactly.
You see, okay, so sorry, I just see a question on the screen. How do we know the chicken is cooked enough? Basically, you want to press the breast, and there should be a little bit of resistance. If you think about a raw chicken breast, and you push on it, it's quite soft and squidgy. When you push on it and it's cooked, it should have a nice bit of resistance. If you think of the palm of your, this here, palm of your hand on your thumb here, if you push that, that's the consistency. Chicken, if it feels like that, then the chicken is cooked. Okay, so
you don't want dry chicken breast.
No. So sorry. What was the question about risotto again? Sorry, Ben.
A lot of people stay away from.
The cream. Sorry, the cream.
Because of the basic and then the cream side of things. Why does it look all creamy? But in your recipe, you don't have any cream in it.
Well, there are Italians that are turning over in their graves at the mention of cream in risotto. It's a thing that chefs do because they overcook it, and they think that the creaminess, you add butter and you add cream afterwards, that's badly cooked risotto. Properly cooked risotto should have this soupy kind of creamy texture. You can see this as I pull but it's not stiff rice. And I'm going to add a little bit more of my stock because obviously it carries on cooking. And this is one of the important things. So the creaminess comes from the rice. And it's going to be even creamier when we add our parmesan to it. There's no need to add butter and cream into this. It's just complete overkill. And I think therein lies the secret to good risotto, is getting the consistency right. And so this cream thing that chefs do, it's just totally unnecessary.
Now, cool. Pete, I'm glad that you're giving out the basics and actually, the classical side of things. And I know that people have been accustomed to risotto being added cream to it and a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
But, this is a classic recipe that, base your foundation on this. If you want to add any other thing later, it's up to you, but know the basics.
Yeah. Definitely, and I think the thing is, and often why restaurants tend to add cream to risotto is that risotto is one of those dishes. It's not very restaurant friendly because ideally to do good risotto in a restaurant you need to cook it to order. It needs to go from the pot to the table. And what restaurants have a tendency to do is they par cook it. They cook it halfway, they chill it down, and they reconstitute it. When you do that, what ends up happening is the rice soaks up all the liquid. So as the rice cools and it continues to cook, and any kind of residual liquid that I've got here will be soaked up by the rice. So you need to add that, and that's where chefs end up adding cream and butter to get that consistency back. When strictly speaking, if you go to a restaurant and if you eat in restaurants and you see risotto as a dish, it should have a little thing in brackets afterwards that says 30 minutes. So then you know they cook it when you order it. Otherwise, they've par-cooked it and it's just going to be porridge. And that's where the butter and the cream comes in. Chef's tricks to give consistency because they've not cooked it properly. Okay, so.
Okay, Pete.
What's the time? Oh, we're okay. We're okay. My nuts have cooled, and I'm going to start on my pesto now. So I'm going to keep a little bit of coriander aside, just a small pinch, because I'm just going to use that for garnish a little bit later. So I've just got a little bit of a NutriBullet because I couldn't be asked to stand here and pound a pesto, even though it's the best way of doing things. So I've got my nuts. Yeah. My nuts go in. All of my coriander goes in. Now, just be careful of the garlic component. I know the recipe says 1 clove, but, 1 clove can be that big, or it can be half that size. What you want, ideally, is maybe half a teaspoon's worth of garlic. Otherwise, what ends up happening is it tastes fantastic when you first make it, but 10 minutes later when you serve it, there's this nasty raw garlic flavor. So I've got like one, and I'm going to take of the garlic I've got on my board here. That's probably a whole clove. I'm going to take a little pinch of that. Maybe half a clove of garlic is going to go into this. I'm going to put my squeeze of lime juice into that. A fresh lime. It's very important to have that acidity in there. And then I'm going to put some of my Parmesan in here. Let's open this packet.
Any difference with using lemon juice or fresh lemon?
You could definitely you could use lemon juice. Never ever use citrus juice from a bottle. Always use it from the fruit. And if you can't find limes, by all means use a lemon. So now I'm going to put some salt and pepper into this. I haven't put all 50 grams in. I think it might be a little bit excessive. So I'm going to hold off on the salt in this one. And then I'm going to add a hefty glug of extra virgin olive oil, which you should all have as a standard in your pantry.
So Pete, just to catch up, we've got the chicken breast ready as you have them on the stove top, and you switch up your pot of risotto that is mixed. And now we are about to split the pesto just to get ready, and then we're going to get ready for plating.
Yeah. Now just have a taste of your risotto before you switch it off. Have a taste of your risotto, see what the flavor's like, but most importantly, how cooked is the rice? If you find it's a little bit crunchy, leave it on for a little bit longer. But if you find like mine, obviously mine is more cooked than yours because I started first, so I was a good 10 minutes ahead of you guys, so my rice is cooked. But just taste it. If it's palatable to you, if you think it needs to cook a little longer, then cook a little longer. But if you've got, as I said, we're looking for that al dente kind of vibe. Same as the pasta, to the tooth, as the Italians say. You want a little bit of texture in your mouth. If it's there, turn it on. Okay, so let's get our NutriBullet vibes going on. Yago.
While you're blitzing, we've got a whole lot of positive comments that are coming in from our YouTube channel. I
bet you most of them are from my mum.
Stekoven. Yeah, no, not yet. Jan Stekoven, if I'm pronouncing his surname right,
I know how you've been. I know who you are with
a lot of fun.
I know how you are with white names.
Yeah, Afrikaans is a bit difficult for me to pronounce, but you must understand.
I have to practice in person. I have to practice in person.
Afrikaans. Yeah,
I have to
but
practice in person myself.
I'm having lots of fun reading of comments here. Some were saying no nuts were harmed during the making of this recipe. I must say, Sarah Knight is having lots of fun, with this. And yeah, man, but I'm loving the comments. But, even the pace that we're going at, and a lot of people are also mentioning the fact that the educational part, the tips that we give, on certain things and ingredients, they loving that, and we should be doing more of that. But that's why we're here. We're trying to make cooking easy.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think it's, for me, also cooking is about understanding the building blocks, it's understanding the foundations of things. It's all very well to give people a recipe, and it's the same when, and you're the same, but the same when you've got staff in the kitchen and you're training staff. It's one thing to say, here's the recipe, get on with it. That's fine this time. But unless you explain to people what's going on in the pot, why it is they're doing what they're doing, when people get that part of cooking, when they understand those foundations, when they understand those building blocks, then all cooking is easy. Because if you know why you're doing what you're doing, then you can rectify mistakes. When things go wrong, you understand what was happening in your pot and why possibly it didn't come out like you thought it would, because you understand the basics and the foundations. And for me, this is always important in demonstrations. I don't want it to be, oh, look how clever he is, look what he made. I want you to look at it and say, I cannot wait to make this again because I understand how it's made. And next time I don't need the recipe because I can wing it, because I understand the foundations of what goes into this. And that for me is always what's important about these things. And I'm glad people are enjoying those tips. Okay, I'm going to koi my Nutri thing. I've never actually used one of these before.
Little way.
Yes, I'm trying to find where there's a switch here somewhere, and I've no idea where it is.
Okay, Pete.
Okay, we just press it down.
You get challenged a lot when it comes to such.
Yeah. When you've been cooking for 4 decades, Benny, your technology is not your friend. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to add some more olive oil to this because it's a little bit on the dry side.
Okay. While you're fixing that, Chameleon's Montessori saying the kitchen is steaming up in here and too many cooks. The risotto is awesome so far, so they're loving that. And
okay, so let me just Chameleon cooks. That's my family.
Oh,
that's my mum and my sister's Chameleon cooks. Okay, I'm glad that you're still keeping up and you're enjoying it.
Yeah, they love it. Okay. And the pesto, Rudy's Shopster is saying the pesto tastes amazing. So he's already ahead of you.
He's finished already.
Yeah. And Nick Hines is saying, or Nick Haynes, if I'm pronouncing this properly, saying you guys made my week. My risotto is to die for. Should not have had a taste. Might not be anything left to serve because he's not tasting, he's eating while he's cooking. So thank you a lot for this evening. Yeah.
So I've just, excuse my difficulty there with the NutriBullet. I've never actually used one before. So any NutriBullet people watching, I've never actually used a NutriBullet. Just saying, putting it out there, Hint.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So my risotto is done. So now the time comes to finish the risotto off. So we'll give it a little taste.
What is it?
Now, again, it needs the Parmesan, but I don't think it needs much salt. I'm going to add the packet of Parmesan to it.
Oh, now the Parmesan goes into the risotto. Hallelujah.
Now the Parmesan goes into the risotto. So now Again, let's taste it because, again, the Parmesan might have different flavors. It's quite a salty cheese. So before we add salt, let's taste it after our Parmesan goes in and then see. Okay. It's got a nice cheesy flavor to it, but I'm going to add a touch of salt to that.
Yeah. Pete, I like
And
what
a little
you
bit of
just
black
said there
pepper.
because we always say that you must taste your food while cooking and season while cooking. You know, you're the first person
Yes.
that knows how your dish is going to taste before you even serve it to anybody. So you got to keep on tasting it, you know, at each and every stage. And I'm glad that you're showing that and that people can take, you know, note of the fact that taste your food before you think or somebody say that it's over seasoned.
Oh. And again, it's also one of those things, people always ask chefs about this. They always say that, oh, chefs hate it when you put salt on their food. No, we don't hate it when you put salt on the food. What we hate is you put salt on the food without tasting it. You know, we work very, very hard in kitchens to present what we think is the perfect plate of food. So our thing is, taste it first. And if you want salt afterwards, put salt on by all means. You paid for it. It's and if you have a high salt, if you love salty food, by all means do so. But you just might find that we got it right, that it is seasoned perfectly. So please, because what happens is, plate of food arrives, grab the salt before you even taste it. That's what chefs hate.
Yeah.
Taste it. You might be pleasantly surprised that we've got it right. Okay, that said, Ben,
Okay,
I didn't actually taste the pesto.
Yeah.
I didn't taste the pesto.
Okay, while you're tasting the pesto,
Pesto also needs a little bit of salt and pepper.
Okay,
We're
I'm
ready,
ready there when it comes to plating.
I'm ready to plate up. So all of my elements,
Okay.
I don't know about everybody else,
Yeah.
but I'm going to hold it. All of my elements are ready. So I'm ready to plate. You tell me when, Benny.
Okay, cool. Before you get onto the plating while you're still adjusting your seasoning on the pesto, this has been, you know, a great cook along that I've been watching. I've learned a couple of things, even though people might think that we know everything, but there's always somebody that does it better. And Pete, in this case, risotto is not something that everybody orders when they go to restaurants, but, you know, from what we've just done and what we just cooked, I know a lot of people are going to be calling out chefs when they go to restaurants and say, this risotto is not the one that I cook with Pete and it doesn't taste the same, you know? But, you know, having enjoyed all of that, we are moments away from plating, and we'll let you know how you can win the Weaver Prize valued at over 13,000 rands. That's a lot of moolah, especially looking at the fact that, you know, things have been slim during lockdown and 2020 in general. But don't forget that to join us for the Best Dish competition, which we encourage you to, for those that have been cooking with us, to take a picture of whatever that you cooked and how you present it, post it on Instagram with the hashtag LiveCookChannel, and also tag us at LiveCookChannel, and you could win a case of this lovely wine that we've been sipping on. As you can see, I've only got like 2 sips left in this bottle from this hectic cooking, and the winner will be announced on SAFM Femelo Show at 1 o'clock on Friday the 11th. So now that we've got that competition of plating and showing your presentation skills out of the way, Pete, how far are we with what you've just done with tasting the pesto?
Oh, look, before I do that, we have a lucky ticket winner. Ticket number 67 is Alison Reed from Simonstown. Well done, Alison. Fantastic prize on its
well
way
done,
to you. I have no idea what the prize is, but it's fantastic, I can tell you that.
Wow, well done to Alison.
So I've just been asked a question. I've just looked at my phone briefly, and someone said, what if I don't have a blender? Well, First of all, you must get a hearing aid because we spoke extensively about what to do if you don't have a blender. But never mind, we'll recap for you. If you don't have a blender, you can either chop the entire salsa by hand, which is also cool, or you can put it into a pestle and mortar and grind it to a paste. But if you just chop it by hand, that's also fabulous. Okay, so are we ready? Are we ready for some plating action, Benno?
Yeah, I think everybody else is ready, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all the pictures that they're going to send and see who is going to be our lucky winner. I know Alison has already been our first winner, but then, like I said, we've got a string of and a whole lot of prizes to give away, but you just got to stay till the end to make sure that you get a chance of winning, especially the big one. That's worth 13,000 Rand from Weber.
And we'll explain a little bit later at the end of the program how you qualify to win that massive prize. Benny has just run off. Obviously, he's wireless. Okay. So Benny has just obviously run off to get the rest of his wine, which is cool. Okay, there you go. If you want to learn how to book this fantastic prize, this magnificent Weaver prize of the Spirit 2-3B and the magnificent Hub Connect with 13,500 Rand, you need to book 2 or more meal tickets to stand a chance in our next cook, which is going to happen on the 3rd of February. So if you want to qualify for that prize, you need to book at least 2 tickets. And you will be cooking alongside myself. I'll be back in the presenting chair, and I'll be cooking with another good friend of mine, George Jardine, from Jardines in Stellenbosch, and the award-winning Jordan restaurant on the Jordan estate. George has got a fantastic dish lined up for us, so definitely one worth doing. Remember to book to cook through Quicket. That's the place to do it. You can also use foodguru.menu and web tickets, but Quicket will be your first point of call. Remember, George Jardine, 3rd of February. Our bookings will close probably at the end of January, probably round about the 20th, the 25th, the week before. So that's our next. We're taking a little well-earned break because, hey, we've been doing this all year. But okay, we're ready to plate. So I'm going to plate two versions.
I'm back.
He's back. Did you go and get wine, Benny?
Yeah.
Okay,
cool. So I had a technical issue, so yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to plate 2 versions of this dish. And I'll explain to you why I'm going to do 2 versions. Because for me, plated food is what I do at restaurants. So restaurants are where plated individual food comes from. And when I eat at home, I like to have big platters and bowls of food that everyone can share and pass around the table. That's my kind of food when it comes to eating home. So I've got this magnificent Le Creuset dish. So before I start, I'm going to do an individual portion because this is going to be my Instagram portion of food. And as you can see, the risotto, as soon as you put it on the plate, it starts to ooze. It doesn't sit up. It should never do that. Now, this is where the one packet of ingredients left that we haven't used is our rocket.
Oh, yeah.
And we use a little bit of our rocket as garnish, and that's going to give us a small bit of greenery, and it goes on the top of our risotto like that. And we take one of our chicken breasts. Knife. What do I do with my knife?
Looking for a knife, yeah.
Oh, here we go. I'm looking for a knife.
Oh,
okay. I'm looking for a knife.
While you're finding a knife, I know that this is the bit where in the restaurants you wonder why that plate that Pete just produced now costs 135. The 35 Rand is how he broke the rocket, and now how he's going to slice the chicken breast and put it over.
There we go. Now I'm just going to cut this in 2 sort of diagonally, and I put that on top like that. And then I take a little bit of my pesto, and I just give it a little drizzle, a little chefy drizzle around the outside, bit of greenery and a little bit of flavor and acidity. And then I'm going to take something. Yes, you can.
Yeah. When you put the pesto, just putting it anti-clockwise help with the flavor, or it's just your thing?
Hugely important. Anti-clockwise. Otherwise, what happens is that the acidity becomes too pungent. You have to. It's okay. It also depends on what the lunar cycle is.
Yeah.
You have to go the other way. Yeah. And then we take a little bit of the reserved coriander I kept back from the pesto, and I put that on top. And I'm going to lift that up towards the camera so you can have a better look at my plated dish. So that's what
wow,
my
that
plated
looks
dish.
yummy, man.
Yeah.
But I give it a thumbs up.
If I'm doing this at home, I'm going to use a beautiful serving dish like this, and I'm going to scoop up the rest of the risotto. I'm just going to put this in. And this is the kind of thing I like doing at home. So everybody gets to tuck in and help themselves. And it's all about that conviviality of the table, where you get to really enjoy yourself and the company that you're with. And that to me is what, especially cooking at home, what cooking at home is all about. And we get some more of that rocket on there. And then we get the rest of our chicken breasts that we had in the oven.
Okay, Pete, while you're building that, the family dining type of presentation, a lot of people are loving the presentation for the dish, and obviously, how the flavors are coming together. I've got Janine Forbes here saying it looks so good. So they loving it. Mark Engel, if I'm bad at pronouncing certain names. He says, was a technical issue running out of wine? And no, it wasn't. One of my connections was not plugged in, and the battery was running low on my laptop, so that's why I ran off. But I still have a little bit left over, so I can have a taste of what Pete has just cooked for us. But yeah, I know it's taken a whole lot of wine because it's so good. But yeah, back to you, Pete.
Okay, guys, so that's my dish plated. Remember, guys, if you want to join us next year, remember it's Book to Cook. Go online at Quicket, and you can, and foodguru.menu and web tickets, and you can buy your box. You can watch us online by all means, but if you watch online and you don't get your box of ingredients, courtesy of Daily Dish, you do not get to have all of the fun, and you certainly don't get any of the prizes. And don't forget, our prize for anyone who books 2 tickets next month goes into the draw to win that fantastic Weaver prize worth 13,500 Rand. So not to be missed. And I think certainly something worth doing, just worth joining, even for not the prizes. Cooking alongside George Jardine is going to be an absolute treat. His food is fantastic, and I look forward to cooking with him. So, Benny, I have to say that I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this year. It's been very, very cool being on this side of the deal, and it's made all the best by having you as the presenter. It's been an absolute pleasure cooking with you. And we're going to sign off today, guys. This has been a fantastic year. We started this, our first episode was on the 11th of June. This is our 9th episode, and it's great to have people who cook along every month for us. And going forward, tell your friends, this is going to continue, and we have been having the most amazing time. We've got to cook with some fantastic, talented chefs. We've had the most unbelievably astute, erudite, and intelligent presenters. We've had 2 of them so far. And I just like to say on behalf of all of the team behind the scenes, I mean, you see Benny and I, there are a plethora of people who make this happen, who work tirelessly behind the scenes to put it all together, who sit nervously behind computers and run around unplugging things and switching on lights and work very, very hard to make this happen. And from all of us at Live Cook Channel, we wish you all a fantastic festive season and a marvelous new year. Please stay safe, Benny. Please stay safe and have a fantastic time. And we will see you all in the new year.
I just want to say it's been fantastic sitting in your seat. It's the most not so comfortable because of directing things and a whole lot of things that you have to pay attention to. But I know that cooking take a whole lot of attention from a whole lot of things. So thank you for this opportunity to present your live cook. We certainly had fun. I had fun watching you cook, as always. And I've tasted more of your dishes than any of the guys that are cooking along with us. But thanks for the opportunity. And thanks to all the comments that have come through. And I'm looking forward to George's live cooking, which is on the 3rd. But to a fantastic evening, lovely wine, lots of prizes and goodies that everybody got. But thank you for the opportunity to, Chillwood do live like this for a while now that we haven't been doing this, and hopefully we're going to be on TV too.
Always great working with you. And to our supporters, our sponsors, have a fantastic Christmas, and we look forward to seeing you in 2021. May the sauce be with you.